All right. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host for the day from AV Nation. With me to discuss their firsthand knowledge of it, because there have been a couple out in the wild. First and foremost, consultant Mr. Pete Coleman, PTS. Welcome, sir.
G'day, Tim. How are you?
Oh, I am fine. I am fine. We'll bring on your cohorts here in a second. But you and I chatted on Friday as you physically got it in your hands. Actually, I think we were on the phone, and you accepted the package as we were chatting.
It was great timing. I don't know how Crestron did that.
They have people, but in all seriousness, you spent the weekend with it. You were aware of it before, obviously, discussing and talking about putting it into systems. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but my understanding is you're already kind of planning on it for a job. What has been your initial reaction, both from the concept of it, but also now that you've got it physically in your hands?
I think the look and the feel of it is actually quite amazing. Obviously, the one that I've got here is the desktop version, yeah. And it's a custom design. Before you would have the same touchscreen, then you would add the plastic back to it. This is a custom design, and it's not until you touch it and you feel it and you hold it in your hands, you get a real sense of the quality. It really, it looks very, I think they've taken a lot of cues from what appears to be Apple in the design of this. But just the feel of it, like it's weighty, but not heavy. It just feels like a quality product. It just looks beautiful as well.
Yeah. Let's bring on the rest of our panel. We've got some end users here. We've also got some integrators, and obviously Pete's a consultant. So Andy Jones from Fish Tech Group, welcome, sir. Also Rich Nollet from Carnegie Mellon University. Josh Vallon, he's a programmer for ABI SPL, and Jared Ross from AHT Global. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning, Tim.
Make sure that everybody gets unmuted and both video and audio. So let's honestly start with kind of the end user group here. Rich, and we'll get Andy here as well. When you take a look at this from the first time, from both a university standpoint and a facility standpoint, what are your first reactions to not just the HTML5, but also the design for different projects?
Well, I agree with Pete. Obviously it is a very solid product. I think the first thing for me that stood out, I started just by loading some of my existing user interfaces on it, and just the improvement in resolution is noticeable, especially for me, with glasses and having some issues with vision. I just saw it overall as a much more crisp looking interface.
What do you mean by, really quickly, what do you mean by improvement in resolution? Obviously the overall resolution is most likely bigger, but how does that translate to a crisper, clearer picture for you and people with vision issues?
So again, I evaluated the 1070 unit as well, and it's listed at 1920 by 1200, and I can just say that similar to like the retinal display or something, the text and the graphics, because of the more pixels, it actually was easier for me to view, especially text on the product.
Absolutely. Andy, let's bring you on this. When it comes to using this for an enterprise deployment, what are some of your experiences to date when it comes to kind of bringing this across, not only in one building or in one platform, but also across an entire system?
Yeah, so we have a campus with 3 buildings, and a workforce at 50% is offsite. So, we'd like to have our conference rooms and everything have that same user experience. And I'd like to share, I think, my first initial impression as well. I agree with Pete and Rich. Unboxing the thing, you could really feel the weight, the metal feeling. It's just really put together very well. The finish and design, it matches our modern office. We have those glass offices that you guys were talking about at the beginning, you know, and even our tabletop is glass. And so I was able to put this thing in our office and get it deployed for about 2 weeks now and get it on that glass surface. And really, you know, the first impression has been the same from all of our users and from me. It's just a solid feeling device. It's got rubber on the bottom that really keeps it in place on the table. So, you know, it gives you that good tactile feel, you know, and just fits in with the whole fit and finish of our modern office space.
Yeah. Real quickly, the glass tabletop, because I know that I'm going to get the integrators here for a second. How did you get that into the glass tabletop? Because this is not wireless. There requires a PoE cable here. So exactly how did that work?
Well, so our glass tabletops have a pop-up, and we were able to, when we built our facilities, we had cord drills put in. Perfect. So we had a PoE line underneath the device. So, you know, it was one cable connectivity for me. Being that we're a Zoom shop, as soon as it came up, I was able to push Zoom. And literally I logged into our Zoom account and chose the room, and the room was up and running. I mean, I had this thing set up in maybe 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, let's bring you in on this about that ease of use and about that ease of deployment. I think all of us here that have physically touched this have mentioned the weight of it and the design. That's all fine and well, but now let's talk about getting it into a system, right? As a programmer, as you know, someone who deals with these things on a daily basis. How important is, you know, kind of the not just the aesthetics, but also the HTML5 and the Java and all the other web applications that Crestron's put into this?
I mean, this panel all around, like just to echo everyone else, it really is sleek. It feels great. It looks great. And just in terms of performance and all these different web applications, I think we've all been there where we're rebooting the panel to get into a different mode, and it's taking a little while and we're watching bouncing dots. I mean, from everything across the board on this thing is just fast. A reboot is fast, a firmware is fast, you know, switching modes, all of that stuff is really good. Loading a new project to it, I mean, you're like blown away that it's finished. If you're doing the traditional BTP, you know, route, you see that progress bar shoot by, and the next thing you know, the project is up. From the Crestron home app on this thing performs amazingly. Really love about the Crestron home app that somehow the scaling on this is just spot on. So as opposed to the previous panels, it was a little small or difficult to use. All the text is nice and big, the font is big. The photos that we can add to the Crestron home jobs, they just look phenomenal on here. They're sharp, they're clear. It's really just a great design all around and great performance.
Yeah. Josh, bringing you on this as well. Let's talk about, you know, the same thing that we kind of talked about with Andy is the mass deployment for, you know, system wide, whether that's a Fortune 500 or higher education. How does this help with the efficiencies of scale when you're looking at, let's say, the 20 or 30 classrooms?
Standardizing on any product is really going to help with economy of scale, and something that I think is very valuable in that economy of scale is the Crestron HTML5 support, and how designing a panel, whether it's a 1070 or a 770 or even a 570, can be, you can design like one product and deliver that throughout any space without having to redesign the user interface, or, you know, make little minor nuance changes for each panel size, which means that you're spending less time on that actual UI development for, you know, across the board. It's like a net positive, right? So that's a really nice thing. And then because you're choosing one platform and the 1070 series are much faster performance wise, when it comes time to loading everything through, you know, hopefully you're scripting everything and not just using the browser when you're doing scale, then the speed of that means you're spending just less time waiting for all of those scripts to finish and return. And, you know, you're loading of things happens rapidly.
Pete, let's bring you back in on this. When it comes to, what you're hearing from the customers, and we've got two, obviously two end users here, what are they telling you as far as, not just the look and feel, but also, the control in general, control and automation as we move into, quite frankly, a new decade. We can argue about whether or not 2020 is the start of the new decade or 2021 is, but regardless, we are entering a new phase. And as technology has evolved, what are they looking for?
Yeah, I think Dan touched on it earlier when he said that clients are after a touch-less environment. So not necessarily, I mean, there's two things. There's a touchless environment, a touch-less environment. So with a touch-less environment, we talk about things like one-touch meetings. So obviously they want a product that looks good, but that has to be functional. It has to be easy to use. It has to enable productivity. That's what it comes down to. And so the simpler that we can have an interface, the better it is. So for us, for what we've seen with our clients, they love that they can walk in and they can have a Zoom room or a Teams room and just hit one button and join. That's been a real positive for our clients.
Yeah. Andy, you're shaking your head there. So let's bring you in on this. What exactly are you guys seeing as far as that? And is it, making it the adoption of technology even easier?
Yeah, it really is. I have, one of the feedback I got from what I would call our Zoom room power user is, the guy that's kind of got the room scheduled the whole day. Yeah. He really likes the fact that, he schedules that meeting weeks in advance. And as soon as he walks in the room, the proximity sensor lights up the touchscreen and his meeting's right there. He just walks up, one touch, and the room starts, the meeting starts. And, so simple, easy to use. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want a bunch of support tickets going into our IT team that the room is down, and all of our workforce is used to that Zoom interface. So it looks the same. It feels the same, and one touch.
All right, Josh, I'm going to pick on you for a second. What does that take? And the reason I'm asking is because we have over 1,000 people here. A number of them are going to be end users. And they're hearing Andy go, holy cow, we've got one touch. Are you kidding me? I've got 3 steps. And just for the record, and again, an old programmer here, if you have more than 3 steps, you can call me because you're doing it wrong. But they hear Andy say one touch, one button, and it starts. What does that take exactly?
Definitely takes a little bit of effort if you're not in a pre-canned environment. Like if you're in a Teams environment, it's part of the native Teams interface. Same with Zoom and a lot of these other like MTR type things. In the integrated environment, right, we have to build that feature in, and we typically rely on the codec for that, although we don't have to as much anymore as we're starting to integrate with more advanced APIs. So we can provide that one-touch experience for rooms that don't meet the typical Zoom or Teams room, right? So you come in and you have one touch. To kind of expand on what Pete was talking about with touch less, right? 2 words, we can also take that and bring just a small portion of the meeting experience to the Crestron One app by presenting just like, say, your meetings that are active now and available to the Crestron One app. So you're not scrolling through a directory on your phone or on your touch screen. You just walk in, Bluetooth your phone and go, okay, I have these 2 meetings available, hit join on your phone. So maybe you touch the touch screen less and you use your phone more, but it's still that similar, here's my meeting, or here's the available meetings for this room, hit join, and everything fires up for you.
Rich, I want to bring you in on this because of some of the things that Josh was talking about there. And that is the idea that, Crestron's leveraging a number of mainstream platforms, right? A number of years ago, they moved for the programming side, the simple world, the simple Sharp is a kind of an evolution of Simple Plus. And now they're leveraging in more mainstream platforms. What does that do for not just end users, but folks that are trying to maintain these systems to have kind of a mainstream computer programming languages available to you?
Well, so, I mean, what we're really looking at here is kind of this idea of enterprise AV. And we've kind of adopted that approach on our campus, developing in C#. Kind of look at HTML as the next evolution of that, so that we can develop in these standard tools and kind of have a reduced code base. And how that helps us, and kind of the advantages, all of these things we're talking about. You have, you know, a lot of this stuff has popped up in just the last year, you know, the need for touchless and stuff like that. And kind of using, you know, these HTML and C#, and even getting into some of the other tools that Crestron provides, like the ability to use PowerShell and things like that. Now, we have the ability to rapidly respond to the changing industry and deploy things more quickly. Systems used to remain static for years, but I'm finding that, you know, I'm adding and changing systems that, you know, are less than, you know, we've done within the last year. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the development tools, this kind of approach, and anything you have, the features that they have built into the interface, help us to respond to changes quickly.
Real quickly, you mentioned the fact that you're already adjusting and adding to systems maybe a year or two old. Is that because your life cycle is changing, or is that just simply because the faculty and staff and the people using your systems are noticing advances in technology and they want those added to it?
Well, we spent a good bit of the last 6 months adding Zoom to quite a few rooms, and that's,
I'm certain, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one example. But you know, wireless presentation technologies or something, we decide, okay, we're going to deploy this in a massive way. We can do that easily.
All right, very good. Jared, I'm going to bring you in on this. And one of the things that I want to kind of highlight here is the ability to adjust and quite frankly, put different resolutions on different, you know, the sizes. Talk for a second about the graphics of these panels and the ability to, you know, kind of utilize things like HTML5 in this new platform.
Well, I mean, again, everything runs just so smoothly on this. The graphics on it are, you know, the thing that actually stood out the most to me, and I know this is a pain point for everybody on previous panels, is the video, loading video, streaming video. You know, we had this move from analog to digital, and sometimes you would hit a camera and it felt a little slow. Now you can actually, you push it and it almost feels like it used to again, where it's just instantaneous, fast. You know, switching between cameras is a huge thing. And also even switching between apps. I mean, this thing, finally, everybody, so I'll put it out there, it runs the S2 app finally. So I know that's a huge thing for all the Resi guys. We've had to sort of avoid the app on the other one if we had an upgraded system. So this allows us to really, you know, be current with everything, install a modern system, and not have to say, oh, you know, you can't use that app. So the S2 app runs great on it. Yeah.
All right, very cool. Pete, when you look at and talking with clients about, you know, the interface here, not just, you know, the specific touch panel, but when it comes to kind of that one touch that Andy was talking about, walk me through, you know, treat me like I'm a client, and what are some of the areas that you need to hit on to make sure that they understand what they're getting into, but also you as a consultant can properly translate kind of what they're saying they need and want to, you know, folks like Josh and Jared.
Yeah, I think every client's different. I mean, some clients are more educated than others or more experienced than others. So some know what they want and some don't know what they want. And so for the ones that don't know what they want, there's a lot more hand holding that goes on. So we actually need to sort of talk them through and explain the experience. We always try to encourage what we call blue sky thinking. So don't hold back. Don't limit yourself by what you know or what you think you can do. Like, talk to me about what would be the ultimate meeting environment. What would that look like? And then we design around that. So we're always trying to push the boundaries. We can have a system that's extremely technical and complicated behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, the user interface has to be the one thing that is intuitive. I mean, you know, there's no manual that comes with an iPhone, so because it's so intuitive. So if we ever see sometimes we see like a little one-page instruction manual that's laminated that's beside the touchscreen, that's a fail. And so we get involved in that user experience. We're not just specifying the hardware, we're actually specifying and designing the experience. What does the look and the feel of the touchscreen, how does that perform? How does that work within the client space? So as I said, we walk them through it, and it just, everyone has a different requirement and they want different outcomes. So it's a case-by-case basis. There's no one, sort of one method that we use.
An entire group of programmers and design consultants just felt attacked, Mr. Pete.
Well,
one thing
and
like to
I
add,
say
though,
that as, yeah, go ahead, Josh. Somewhat tongue in cheek, but yeah, because I have seen my fair share of instruction manuals on how to use a touch panel.
Yeah, I would say one thing though is don't feel like if you don't know what you want that you have to envision some grandiose meeting experience either. If you aren't comfortable, right, leverage your dealers and your integrators on the experience they've had for 10 or 20 years on giving you a starting point. A lot of us have templates or just at least a guideline, like this is kind of where most meeting rooms go. And those really help people that are just like, they just handed this project to me, I need to get this done, right? We can help you on that. That's why we are integrators and dealers, to help you out with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for ourselves, I mean, as I said, we put ourselves in, we're the client's representative. So we put ourselves in the shoes of the client. How would I expect that space to operate? So maybe we're a little bit different than other consultants where we take more control of that, the look and the feel, and we help design and plan and document how that is to, how it's to look and feel. And I think we get a little bit more involved maybe than most to ensure that the client's getting what they expected.
But I think that's absolutely huge though. Seriously. I mean, that being able to have that conversation, to be able to translate that. Rich, go ahead.
And I think with the addition, the ability to use HTML5, you can begin to emulate some of the same types of user experiences that people are used to seeing on their smart devices, and thereby kind of eliminating some of the need for supplemental instruction.
Yeah, Andy, I want to bring you on this to touch one thing real quickly before we get out of here, and that's XIO Cloud. That's something that we don't, again, you understand that it's been a number of years since I've actively programmed a system. So it was pre-XIO Cloud. But one of the things that, one thing that I had never really kind of put two and two together, and that's a touch panel and the cloud. Obviously, with NVX and a number of other products that Crestron has, absolutely, 100%. Let's talk about XIO. But a touch panel was one of the things that I really wasn't, I didn't make the connection. So help me make that connection, how XIO Cloud makes this better.
Yeah, there's a couple points I can make there. Rich touched on the enterprise AV, and for us, that means security, because we're a cybersecurity company. So first and foremost, we need to put devices in that, aren't going to be the weak point in our system. And one of our minimum qualifications is we need to be able to easily monitor those devices, and we need to be able to rapidly update the firmware, because we have hundreds of these devices now within our facilities. And so XIO Cloud is the platform that we use to kind of do that. I can easily look on the dashboards there and see the up-down status of my rooms. Being that our spaces have that one-touch interface, if for some reason that touch screen is down, the whole meeting room is down. So I need, that's why it's important for me to be able to put my touch screens in the XIO Cloud. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but to have that information right there from my office, I can see, what my entire system is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared, one thing real quick I wanted you to touch on, and that's the connectivity. And this comes built in with the ability to have Wi-Fi already built into it. Talk about why that's important, especially in home applications.
So this is huge for the home applications because, and again, once people see this panel as compared to the old ones, I can tell you right now, they're going to want more of them. They're slick. A lot of people have mentioned that they feel a little bit Apple-y. Even from the profile, they're great. So the Wi-Fi connectivity is going to allow us to deploy them where maybe we hadn't planned on having one. Next to a bed, on a nightstand. I'm sure people are going to love to add them there. In the family room, on a side table, in the theater, anywhere where you have an outlet, you could potentially add a PoE injector, get it hooked up to the Wi-Fi, and you're rolling. You don't actually need to have that dedicated wire that you've needed in the past, and it really just it gives you a lot of flexibility.
All right, very cool.
I think that helps in the commercial space too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that deployment aspect. In the past, when you had the tabletop version, you had a separate tabletop kit, and it came with screws, and you'd lose the screws, and then you'd have to snake the cable in, and then the cable would fold back on itself to get the back on, and it was a process to actually deploy these. With the new version, a bit hard to see on the camera there, but there is a little plastic cover that goes on here, but the cable just goes straight into the back, so you're not folding the cable over and destroying. So deployment is a snap. There's nothing to assemble, plug the cable in, and off you go. So just saving a lot of time on site when trying to get these rolled out is a huge bonus.
Turn that a bit and show that again, because I want people to see that. Yeah, the cable goes straight in there and right in.
Yeah.
And again, as someone who used to deploy 6Xs and other type of wired devices, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, and even that idea in the commercial space, right? A lot of times it'll be like, oh, it's going over here, and a requirement changes, and we have to move it. While Wi-Fi may not be the most reliable situation in a commercial environment, it is a nice fallback if something changes. Maybe the floor core doesn't have room for an extra cable for a DM transmitter, so you need to sacrifice something, and you can take the power cable or the Ethernet cable for your touch panel now and be like, oh, okay, we have some wiggle room, and it's not so hardly defined, which is a nice thing to have some flexibility in your designs.
Absolutely. The thing that Pete talked about, the fact that you used to have a separate kit, right, to convert one to another. These are two separate SKUs. These are two separate devices. You can absolutely have a wall device. It is not the same as what Pete's got in his hand. That is the dedicated tabletop. If you want the wall one, it doesn't come with that. You can't take that apart unless you have a blowtorch. All right. So please don't do that. All right. Pete Coleman, appreciate your time, sir. Andy Jones, Rich Nolette, Josh Vallon, and Jared Roche. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks everybody for joining us.